This episode is brought to you by Riverbank Title. Inspired out of a personal, challenging experience attempting to close on a home for his family, owner and operator Preston Corp founded Riverbank Title to deliver a smooth and successful closing from start to finish. Riverbank's attention to detail and concierge-level service are here to make your real estate closing process as simple and seamless as possible. I have multiple upcoming closings and will be using Riverbank Title every opportunity I can. Click the link in the show notes below to connect with Riverbank Title and find out more. Welcome to the Restoration Group podcast, where we were just being silly a moment ago, but we are always serious about investing in Oklahoma City leaders who desire to integrate their Christian faith into the business. Thank you for being with us today. I'm your host, Clay Steves, and I am joined by both of my co-hostesses. Co-hosts? With the mostesses, Aaron Scott and Michael Mead. Team, how we doing today?
Is the snack company with like Twinkies Hostess?
Hostess.
Hostess?
Hostess.
What's your favorite Hostess snack?
Are Little Debbie's a Hostess snack?
Can we just count Little Debbie and Hostess as one thing? Because I don't know the
Is it
difference.
one thing?
Well, if they're different companies, we probably are insulted. Like, there are some people, if they listened, would be very
What are
insulted.
Cosmic Brownies? Are those Hostess?
I
Twinkies?
think those are Little Debbie.
Ding dongs?
Ding dongs?
The Swiss rolls. Little Debbie Swiss rolls were my jam. Like little logs with the...
Okay.
Yeah,
I
man.
don't know.
Processed sugar.
Oatmeal cream pie.
That's what I'm talking about.
Which one?
Oatmeal cream pies.
Oh, yeah.
This episode has devolved. I like it. We are or it has gone up. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. That's a valid point. It's a valid point. Okay, well, this episode really, well, we wish it was about sweets. It's not. It is the second episode in a 4-part series on the balancing act in an integrated business between performance and dignity. The balancing act between performance and dignity. If you go back 2 episodes, you can listen to the first part of this series. And today's episode, gear up. Everybody's favorite subject. Maybe actually the third one will be, I don't know, but this one is on crucial conversations. Crucial conversations. And because I like to avoid them, I'm going to let Michael lead this episode. Go ahead, Michael.
I just feel like when people wake up in the morning, they think 2 things. 1, I need to go to the bathroom.
What?
2, I really hope I get to have a crucial conversation today.
Fingers crossed.
Isn't that what you guys wake up thinking
I
about?
wake up seeking them. I'm just let's go
how
find
soon-
them.
Is my neighbor up? Can I go start one next door?
Do they have the notifications on silence?
Yeah.
Or can I just get this thing going right off the bat? Get
Is
into
that not what you guys think about? There's very important, sometimes uncomfortable. And we'll start by, let's just define what is a crucial conversation. The first crucial conversation I need to have is this plant.
I think that conversation
It's in my way.
because I put it there. I apologize.
You gave us a chance to move it. He didn't take you up on it. That's
So
on him.
let's define some vocabulary here.
Yeah,
A crucial conversation is a discussion between 2 or more people when these 3 things are all true. 1, the stakes are high. 2, opinions vary. And 3, emotions run strong or have the potential to run strong, depending on how the conversation goes.
Stakes are high.
Uh-huh.
Opinions vary.
Yep.
And emotions are strong.
Yep. So here's a great example of something that's not a crucial conversation that has 2 of these things.
Okay.
If you and I have the opinion that for the video Manchester United is the best soccer club in the world, we agree on that.
It is true.
And our emotions are high because we're excitedly talking about it.
Yes.
That's not a crucial conversation.
Okay.
Even because,
our opinions don't vary.
change that.
No,
Change that.
our opinions don't
Let's
vary.
say we're debating the best club and
Okay.
our opinions are high. Well, the stakes are low.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stakes don't matter.
For most people.
Yeah, we don't make a living by owning soccer clubs. We don't work for the club.
Yes.
It's which sports team we like better
Yeah.
is the best.
So we could be having a heated
The
debate.
stakes don't
we
matter.
Disagree. We're arguing.
Yeah.
Emotions are high, but it doesn't really matter.
It's not a crucial combo.
So it's not a crucial conversation.
Okay.
So those 3 things have to be true: high stakes, differing opinions, and emotions run high. And I think when we think about this type of thing, we might have these like movie scene moments where it's like this big conference room and we're having this heated discussion, and those certainly occur. But I think crucial conversations are much more, they sneak up on you. They happen in small everyday moments. It's the like kitchen conversation with your spouse about who's doing the dishes, or you know, the different things in the work when you're just working side by side. It's like they just spring up on you and can often catch you off guard, can be unexpected, which is why they can be so dangerous if you don't realize that you're having a crucial conversation. So that recognition is really important. And just to kind of give a few examples of what does this look like at a business in the workplace.
Yep.
So some things you might see or maybe have been a part of is if, you need to talk to a coworker who is just being rude or annoying in the workplace, you need to confront them about their behavior. That's a crucial conversation. Stakes are high. Your opinions differ, and it's going to be an emotionally charged conversation because it's going to be challenging for them to receive that and hear that. Maybe giving your boss feedback about their behavior.
What do you need to talk about?
We're going to do that later. Erin has some important things she needs to share with you.
I will do it on this episode.
On air
Here
today.
we go.
Giving feedback about a team member's work. And I specifically mean the thing they created. And, the example that comes to mind is like a graphic design creation.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not giving you, Erin, feedback about you as a person. I'm actually giving you feedback about the work you did. And so that's an example of a crucial conversation. We can jump in there? Okay, my bad. I misread that. And then, if you have to give a poor performance review, if you have a annual review process or something like that, that would be a great example of like a premeditated, I know this is about to happen. I need to sit down with this employee and give them a poor performance review. That would be another time where a crucial conversation could sneak up on you. So I have one more thought before we dive in, but what are just your initial views on your experience of crucial conversations in the workplace?
They are not fun.
They are essential.
Both of those things are true.
Essentially not fun.
Yeah, I just think they matter for a high performance, high dignity culture to keep those things balancing at times. Like they must be present.
Yeah.
Yeah, and getting people to acclimate to that truth and having that be a part of the culture. And again, it's still high emotions, stakes are high, uncomfortable, not fun, different opinions, but that's what I would say. Yeah, initially.
Yeah, well, and that's my thought on that is they're very hard and challenging, but like being an entrepreneur, being a business owner, being a leader, those are hard things. Like that's what we're signing up for when we set out to lead. And sometimes we might not recognize that that's what we're signing up for.
Yeah.
But I think this is a really integral part of leading a high performing team.
Yeah.
That as a leader, we're signing up to say, yes, this is hard. And yes, we're going to do it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And then I think one other aspect of this that's helpful just for a framework is categorically, there are different types of crucial conversations. And a lot of our source material for this episode is from the book called Crucial Conversations. And so I got this from that book. And it's pretty easy to remember in what type of conversation you're having because they use the acronym CPR. And so 2 episodes ago, Erin used an example for performance and dignity on an employee being late to a team meeting. So we'll stick with that example on what this might look like. And so the CPR, it's content, pattern, relationship. And so that's kind of like what type of conversation are we having? So a content conversation is, hey, Erin, and on that episode, she made me late. So now I get to make you late. So it's, hey, Erin, you were late to this meeting one time. We're going to talk about the content that what happened, it's one time.
Yeah.
The pattern is you've been late repeatedly. So I know you said there was traffic last time, that it's like, what's going on? This is a pattern of behavior. The relationship is you have been late so often, I no longer trust that you're going to do what you say you're going to do. And do you see how it's a different conversation based on
that
what you're
last
addressing?
one, when we get to tier 3 or you get to the R,
I mean, that's...
I get uncomfortable even as you're talking about it, just to be...
Well, if you get to a workplace environment where you're having a relationship conversation, you're pretty close to that team member no longer working for you or a really dramatic turnaround occurring.
Wow.
That's a fork in the road.
Okay.
And if you're addressing...
I kind of jumped to the end there. Sorry.
Well, if you're addressing someone late the first time and you lean into that, then a lot of times you're not going to get to the relationship problem.
But those are the magnification on each of those and the consequence and the challenge is increasing every CPR.
The stakes get higher as you go down
That's good.
the CPR.
That's good.
And so that would be my encouragement. As uncomfortable as this is, content conversations are a lot easier.
Yeah.
And
it's only going to get harder
that's
and
right.
worse.
And the longer you wait, the further you're going to travel down out of that scale, and the stakes will get higher. So that's just a good framework to think about what type of conversation needs to be had. There's so much here. I would just encourage folks to check out the book if this is a topic of interest to them. But we'll try to get some practical stuff that they can take away from our episode. So Clay, I'll start with you.
Great.
What is a time, you've been a business owner for 10 years.
Yeah.
Almost.
Almost.
What's a time when you've known that you needed to have a crucial conversation with a team member, but you avoided it? And part two is, what was your motivation to avoid it, and then the consequence of doing that?
I can't answer this question for you because I've never avoided a crucial conversation. So Aaron, do you? No, I'm just kidding. It was a when you put this question on there and sent me the outline ahead of time. At first, I was like, oh, I can't. Okay, let me think about one. And I couldn't come up with one. Yet I know this is something I have done over and over and over and over again. I ended up coming to multiple of them. Don't worry. Don't worry. I came to them, and I'm picking a lower, what will seem like a lower weight one, but it carried the same magnitude for me. They got to the pattern place. Like, I can speak bluntly on that. Yep. So we've talked about this platform numerous times. We really should be getting them to pay us in some way, shape, or form. Because we talk about 15.5 a lot in our episodes.
Yeah, we do.
But we use 15.5 as a tool internally for performance evaluation, for staying connected, and you have a weekly check-in piece. And as a leader and as a manager, I've got multiple people who send me their weekly check-ins, and I have a cohort of time that I do that fits my rhythms, in the rhythms of when those things are due, would be the right term, when we expect them to be turned in at the end of a week. And I check them at a certain point not long after that. And that keeps me on my meeting rhythm. It sets me up for my Friday meeting day with all of the other leadership, all the other strategic things we're preparing for the next week. And I had a team member that was consistently late.
Is this me?
No, it is not.
I was thinking the same thing.
Well, maybe it's everybody. Well, I remind you, no, I'm not thinking of you in this.
I have been doing so good on that.
I know. Okay. Have we ever talked about that, though?
Yeah.
Okay.
When I was late.
I know. That's okay. So at least there's an example of where I did do it. There's an example where I did do it.
Yeah. You see, just told me the whole story and not say it was me.
No, it wasn't. That's great. But I avoided doing it for a long time. Actually, I talked to you about it pretty quickly. I remember these dialogues. Yeah. I avoided doing it for a long time. And the reason, because I'm like, number one, that's a small thing.
Yep.
So that's the first thing to me. And when we talk about stakes being high, I'm like, well, okay, it's a check-in.
Yep.
A lot on this team member's plate, a lot going on in life, personal, professional, all the above. I'm trying to leverage empathy. You see that. So there's first reason I avoided it.
Yep.
I perceive it to be small.
Yep.
And then I perceive that I leverage empathy and be like, I can understand with everything going on, you avoid it. Okay. The challenge became when it became a pattern, it began to disrupt the rest of my days, because then at some point I have to find more time to then go back and evaluate their stuff when it's done later. We would get into other meetings in that day that I was unprepared for and be like, oh, well, yeah, this happened that's in the check-in, but I wasn't able to see it at the appropriate time to set me up. So now all of a sudden the stakes got a lot higher because I was leading poor because I didn't have the insight, because this is a tool we use to get the right information, because data has to be accurate and timely. Yep. And the timely part matters. Yeah. So all of a sudden what seemed small was actually really large. Yeah. And I avoided it because of the fact, and then there's also just the schedules and the rhythms, like, well, this is such a small thing. I'm not going to call somebody and have a crucial combo and have this out about the, but the truth of the matter was it's actually a big deal. Yeah. And it was a commitment we all made, and we'll get to accountability in the next episode. But when we commit to doing something, it actually matters to do said thing. And when I was avoiding having that conversation, and I can say it's a whole lot better now, and I have had that crucial combo. And so that was why I avoided it, because I think I had good intentions. And I'm using quotes when I say that. I probably was more avoidant, but I was thinking I had
Sure.
good intentions, but yeah.
Well, and even listening to that example, I can see how it happens 2, 3, 4 times, and you're thinking about the empathy and everything, and then you start avoiding it because it's happened 4 times and you haven't had the combo.
Right.
I've had that combo, and I hate that combo.
Yeah.
Where they're like, "Well, this is just out of left field to me."
Yeah.
Like, well, now it's
Right.
and for the truth of the matter is, it is my fault.
Yeah.
because I avoided it, and now I'm like, "Well, I don't want to
Sanctioned
call myself a what'd you say?
Sanctioned incompetence.
Sanctioned incompetence,
Yeah.
right?" And even on my own side, it's incompetence because I wasn't. Yeah, so I think that you're
So then
100%
you
right.
are avoiding it because it's just a thing.
And those things pile on top of each other.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. Yes,
And that's a great way to blindside a team member because you've been thinking about it for months probably.
Yes.
And stewing on it. And it's like, why are they ruining my life on purpose? Right?
Yeah.
No, I've never thought that, Michael. Get out of my head. Get out of my head.
Yeah, that's really good. And I think that is actually a good example because it is a seemingly small thing.
Yeah.
But I think we hopefully illustrated how that seemingly small thing actually is really big.
Yeah.
And if you had addressed it the first time,
Yeah.
it's a very easy conversation.
Yes.
It gets harder the longer you wait.
Yes.
That'll be a big takeaway from today's episode is just do it early.
Yeah.
So Aaron, let's kind of look at it from another angle. What was a time that you did engage in a crucial convo and it didn't go very well?
Both of you are already laughing.
No, I'm laughing at you're like, is this me? I'm still chuckling at that. You're
Well,
like,
I
Clay,
just
just say
imagine
it.
you guys are laughing because Michael gave me this question of like, when have you had a crucial combo that didn't go well? Probably because you have a lot of examples. Like,
Well, I don't want to get us derailed, but I actually did pick you on purpose. I would have done me on purpose. We'll talk about Enneagram stuff in the future, but like you're an Enneagram 8, you're a challenger, and so it might be a little more predisposed towards your personality to engage in the
I was actually
conversation.
going to talk about that exact thing.
Okay, so that's why I picked you.
Okay, well, again, not offended at all. I was joking. Because I do have a caveat here, and I was going to say the same thing of like, I think my personality type is likely more predisposed to having crucial conversations, whether they're warranted or not. But also to the potential of just maybe not doing them super well. But I don't want to let less challenging people off the hook here either of like,
Come on now.
they're still necessary and they can still be done well or not well. But I do think that you're right. I was an easy pick here. So I had to sort through all of my examples. But I selected one from when I was in my early 20s, but I want to be clear. That's
So just
not
like
to
2 or 3
say-
years ago?
Yeah,
Not that long
last year,
ago.
last
Okay,
year.
good. Just
I'm
making
in
sure.
my mid-20s now.
Yeah,
early
great.
20s.
Cool. Yeah. Nope.
Okay, thanks. Hang on, okay? So I want to be clear that I have had examples that are more recent, but I picked this example on purpose. So I was in my early 20s, and I had someone that I was leading that was, well, let me paint a little bit of a picture. I was in a leadership position where the expectation was I will be leading most people that are older than me, most people that are significantly older than me, have more life experience than me.
Yeah.
Also, just to note, like a lot of dudes that are older than me, you know, things like that. So
Yeah.
that's like the context in which I'm leading here. And it was, and this plays into my personality type, of course, but there was a little bit of the like, can she do it? You know, like, can she lead this demographic of people?
Was that articulated to you, or was that your perception that was there?
100% articulated to me.
So it was very clearly said to you. Okay, I just want to make sure. I was trying to figure out, is that like in your head, or is that like a clear?
Oh, no.
Okay,
Keep
cool.
that in your back pocket because
Great.
I think that's not a great thing. That was very clearly articulated.
Thank you for the clarity on the
Yes.
nuance there. Okay.
And so there was, there were just some things that had come up with this person that very clearly needed to be addressed. They did. There were some behaviors that were outside of the expectation and the performance standard, if you will, that we had set and agreed on. There were some issues where this person was, and I don't think with like malice, you know, intentionally, but where this person was kind of undermining my leadership by, you know, kind of talking to other people about things and maybe kind of like getting a group together, sort of a thing. So there were definitely things that needed to be addressed, no doubt. However, the way that I handled it, definitely, and I didn't see this at the time, but in hindsight, it is very clear that there was a part of me that was having this conversation through the lens of, I need to prove that I can.
Wow.
I need to prove to this person that I can. I need to make sure this person knows that I'm in charge and not them. and I need to prove to the people around me who are watching me, I don't mean that necessarily literally, but like figuratively watching my performance and the leaders above me, I need to prove that I can. And here's where I want to take a quick side note of some red flags. I literally wrote red flags in my note. I would say some red flags to look out for if you are coming into a crucial conversation. I know Michael talked about how sometimes they sneak up on you. And so I think being prepared ahead of time on how to do this well is really helpful. But I think when you have the time to know, like you gave the example of like a poor performance review you're going to have to give, like, or this, in this case, it's like, I need to sit down with this guy and have a conversation. So I know it's coming. And if you have honestly, that's a gift that you have the time to think through this conversation beforehand. If you're really honest with yourself, if there is even a little bit of anything in the back of your mind of like, I need to prove something here, I need to make sure this person knows that I'm in charge, or I'm supposed to do this. Like if there is any of that, I'm going to say that's a red flag for this conversation, that either the environment around you is probably not great that is making you feel that way, or that you should bring someone else in to talk through this conversation beforehand or be in the conversation with you, because that's something else that I didn't do well in this. Like I'm coming in with like a not great lens and I'm doing it completely alone. So I'm meeting with this guy one-on-one multiple times, and there just was no benefit to that, honestly. Like that didn't do anything except for potentially make my pride increase of like, I am telling him what's up,
Yeah.
And so I'm using that as an example because, again, I want to point out the conversation definitely needed to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, I have been guilty of maybe having conversations that weren't warranted. That's fine. But in this instance, to go back to kind of your rubric, like the stakes were high, like there were things that weren't being met, like expectation wise. Our opinions definitely varied here. And emotions were very strong on both ends.
Yeah.
And so it was definitely a conversation that needed to be had, and that was a crucial conversation. I can just look back and see, man, I did not do that well. I did not prepare well for that. And I, to just like put a bow on this story though, not that this is definitely a rabbit trail that I just want to take. Years later, I was able to go back to that person. I'll tell you later who the person is, you know them. I was able to go back to that person and just like apologize for like, hey, not to make an excuse, but like, dude, I was young and inexperienced, and I am so sorry for the way that I handled those conversations. And he was really gracious, apologized for things on his end too. And we ended up like mending our relationship. But it was like, that was totally unnecessary. Like I could have avoided ever having, like we probably had like 10 years of like, we weren't around each other all the time in that 2 years, but 10 years where like our relationship was kind of awkward because of how I handled this conversation. And it was completely avoidable, completely unnecessary. And I think the number one thing I would have done different is to invite someone else in, someone who could have said, really, like that's how you want to go about this, or like, let's think about this another way.
And when you say invite them in, do you mean into the literal conversation or into your process ahead of time preparing? Okay, cool, great.
I think anytime we have the gift of like a time ahead, whether it is a poor performance review or just something maybe we do feel uncomfortable with, like maybe it's like, man, I'm not good at this, I don't feel comfortable with this, but I know I need to have this conversation. Invite someone else in to help you along the way, to give you feedback as you process, or maybe or to sit in the conversation with you. It's just like, I don't really know when that could result in something negative. Like maybe it's unnecessary, maybe it's overkill, but I don't ever think that it's detrimental to the conversation. I think it only has the potential to be positive for everyone involved to have someone else there with you, because it's so easy, especially depending on your predisposition and with your personality, it's so easy to slip into some unhealthy realms of crucial conversations.
Yeah.
I said a lot.
Yeah, that's okay. That was good stuff. We don't have time to like fully flesh this out, but I want to balance the perspective of bringing someone with you. While I do agree with it generally, I think you have to be aware of the power dynamic that could be implied there, where if I'm the leader and I'm bringing someone, it's like, oh, I'm just bringing them to add fuel to my flame.
Absolutely.
So you just have to do it really mindfully and make sure it's understood and believed that that person is there for both benefits, not just to back me up.
Yeah.
So that would be my only caution. Yeah.
Objective opinion person.
A mediator, someone that they would actually trust to be
Absolutely.
objective in the situation.
So if you're the boss, just be mindful that the third person could inadvertently hurt you by being perceived as someone that is there to help you win when that's not the objective. And that's not what you were saying. I just want to add that perspective.
It's good.
So we've kind of talked about the avoidant approach. We've also looked at maybe aggressively having a chip on your shoulder, whatever, everything Aaron just talked about. So these are kind of the two sides of the coin on how crucial conversations can go. But we believe there's a benefit to doing them well and having a work environment where it's just normal to do them well. So I would love to hear from both of you. Just what does that look like when a organization really embraces having crucial conversations? What can that do for a company and their culture?
I think it gives dignity to people and clarifies performance when you can come in with very specific things in an again, I know emotions are high, so maybe I should say in a composed way. And so I think that's, if I could talk about being able to get to a place of composure is critical, the best that you can. And again, I've been so nervous, like I was like sick and pit of stomach. And I have some notes for the coming up episode about that, but that for me is a key to doing them well. The benefit is I think people know where they stand, because in my example, the stakes weren't high and the emotions weren't high until I let it go for a long time. Then that's what creates unmet expectations. That's where people feel a great disconnect. That's like employees feel a disconnect. And that's where then the emotions go up. The stakes get very high, and difference of opinions on something. So that piece for me, is I think dignity comes from giving people that feedback in a much quicker loop, as opposed to letting it go for a long time. And that leads to better performance. People feel cared for those pieces as opposed to unmet expectations. Yeah,
that's good.
I want to try to articulate this well, but I think making sure that we focus the conversation, we're keeping people in mind for sure, but the content of the conversation focused on the performance, not the person. So you mentioned this, like with Clay's example of like, or just with the example of you're giving feedback on someone's work. It's not personal to you, like graphic designer. It's just, I'm giving feedback on this work.
What about their behavior? Where do you put can you give it on the behavior and not the person, or is behavior the person?
But that's the performance.
Okay,
they
got it.
The performance behavior standard that you had previously set.
Great.
But then again, on the other end of the spectrum with me, like had I kept the conversation focused on the issue at hand and not my heightened emotions about this person and my perception of how they, were interacting with me or things like that, had the content of our conversation been focused on, let's talk about this issue. I also I'll say this quickly, like I saw a drawing one time of someone talking about like when there's an issue in the middle and we're on either side and we're shooting, we're shooting at the issue. We're actually shooting each other, because we're in the crossfire. But if we just both get on the same side and like we can shoot at the issue and we can disagree on the issue and we can have varying opinions, but when we're on the same side and we take the time to acknowledge like, hey, we're in this together, then we're focusing on the content or the performance. We're not focused on accidentally, even if it's unintentionally, we're accidentally crossfire shooting the other person.
Yeah. And that the objective of having a crucial conversation is restoring a relationship, unifying, getting on the same page. I think that's really, it's not I win, you lose.
Right.
It's like the objective of this is that we grow and overcome this thing together and move forward side by side. So I'm glad that you just used that example.
Yeah.
That's good. And we threw a lot, there's a lot of content in Crucial Conversations. I mean, there's a solid 300-page book on it. I've mentioned it. It's a great resource. I would recommend checking that out if you feel like this is an area that you could grow. And then also, I want to extend the offer for our Oklahoma City audience. If you are like, man, I've got something on my mind right now and I don't have anyone to talk to about it, like, I'd love to meet up. I'll buy you coffee and we can talk over the crucial conversation that you need to have. I'd be happy to do that. We'll put a link in the show notes where you can just shoot us an email and ask about that. I'd be happy to talk it over. So this is, like Clay said at the beginning, this is part 2 of our Performance and Dignity series. Next week, we're talking about accountability, and that's going to be fun. I say next week. It'll be 2 weeks from today. Yep. We'll talk about our accountability, and then we'll end the series talking about how to create systems in your organization to do this well. So we're going to wrap up today with a Bible verse. It is Colossians 4:6. And it says, let your conversation be gracious and attractive so that you will have the right response for everyone.
Till next week, choose life.
Thanks for tuning into our show. If you want to learn more about how you can integrate your faith into your business, download our integrated business guide for free by clicking the link in the show notes below. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you next time.